have going on the ballot the mayor's redevelopment for now housing trust fund for $13 million going to $50 million over so many years. That's going to be on the ballot. That's one way. I have my 25-year-old son living with me, so I hope he can step in line if he has enough, can make enough capital or enough money to move out at some point in time. The other issue I wish to raise is I think density along transit corridors is what the federal government has been looking at as the model for a number of years. In this city, it's a little hard because we're compacted in our form. But areas that have growth are Treasure Island's going to be coming online. Lennar's doing something off the 3rd Street corridor, which is bringing on low-income and affordable housing components. We also have Park Merced that's going to grow. All of these are going to bring some units on, a multitude of units on. But I believe the true answer, as I think one of my colleagues said, is a balance. And that's how I would look at the growth in San Francisco coming along on transit corridors where you can afford to have some density. That doesn't intrude on the look and feel of the historic neighborhoods that we have.
We definitely need to grow. We can't stagnate as a city. So we need to have a pact. We need to say we are going to preserve this. I mean, San Francisco loves to talk about diversity. We provide diversity in providing the single-family homes and the place where people want to raise families and have that single-family home experience. We need to preserve that as a part of the mosaic of San Francisco. But the pact is we also have to do a little bit, play a little bit of a role in helping with the density. And so when we do development in what I would say appropriate places like Park Merced, I think that's good. And I would also even argue that along transit corridors, like West Portal and Ocean and Terraville, that having ownership condos, 2 or 3 stories, would be fine and wouldn't ruin District 7. Because the people, the young professionals and young families would buy those, they would be stable, they would bring in more foot traffic, and they would use the Muni to get to work and not have to, there's some people who don't mind not having a car. I think we can compromise and play our part in development while preserving the sacred single-family home neighborhoods that we have.
We're on a precipice in San Francisco, and on the other side is danger. If we overdo the density, we're going to have great problems, and we're going to Manhattanize San Francisco. If we don't do it in a way that's reasonable, my children and perhaps your children will be able to afford to live here. And so what we have to do is incrementally increase the density of San Francisco while having sensible infill, do some of the things that planning is doing. There's a model across the country having to do with building on transit corridors and trying to preserve the character of the neighborhood across the city, but particularly our neighborhood. We are known downtown as those people with lawns, derisively, because we are very different from the rest of the city when you think about it. And we have the right to have those lawns and have the character of the neighborhood that we have out here. And I think it's very important that we do everything we can to preserve that type of housing and not rush ahead and do this wrong and ruin, possibly, San Francisco. Thank you.
I'm faced with that situation now with a daughter that's a teacher for 7 years now. She wants to stay in the city and wonder how she's going to afford to eventually purchase a home for herself. And without having some logical, practical growth in the city, then she's out of the picture. So part of it is how do you develop these projects? And I'm going to give you a good example of how to do it. We just opened up the Whole Foods on Ocean Avenue, and they have some apartments there. And I remember when it broke ground, prior to breaking ground, there was really about 2 years of discussion in the community, and in which I went to meetings and we talked about what makes sense for us and what doesn't make sense, and the developer was willing to listen. And by the time it broke ground, there's no complaints about what was going to go up on there. And I think that's what we haven't done in the city, is that to have enough time for people to actually, especially stakeholders, to give their opinion about what is going to be doable and what's not doable. So that's what I would promote, is to have dialogue between all the different parties.